What is going on, everybody? Happy Sunday night. We are currently looking at futures before the open tomorrow morning. So excited to get back to a full week this coming week. We have, let's see, across the board, pretty much even, not too much movement in either direction. I believe if we go back to last week, we saw futures really start to tank towards the end of the night, Sunday night. And then, of course, we woke up Monday morning this time last week, and it was like, the floodgates had opened and everything was just tanking. So we're not seeing that as of right now, and I don't think that's going to probably happen, but we'll see. Of course, any news could come out overnight, right? That could change things. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of stocks this week that could be setting up for a nice rebound. So I don't think that necessarily we need to just talk about the overall market. We can probably talk a lot more in terms of, a lot of other rebound plays that could be setting up across the board. So that said, I figure let's just dive into SPY, and then we'll go from there. So we'll start with SPY. We'll start with IWM, get a good sense for the overall market, get a good sense for, we'll even talk some crypto as well. Have a crypto video coming out this week on Tuesday, I believe. And then after that, we'll dive into a bunch of other stocks, swings and momentum plays and whatnot. I want to talk about CEI. I want to talk about a couple other names that have been, pretty strong momentum plays as well. So look at this. Market opened up, gap down, and we recovered very nice. We are at the 50 SMA, so this would be an area right where we are pretty much sitting at on SPY that I would potentially expect. Maybe this is where we see some resistance right here at this, 445. So if we can break up over that level, I think we can get back up over 450, and then we'll probably be at all-time highs yet again. And as crazy as that sounds, again, what did we see? Who knows how we finish this month? Honestly, we started the month. You go back to the beginning of September, we would be right back in here, pretty much around that like 452, 453 level is where we started the month. So, could we get there this week and close the month green? Sure. But September traditionally and historically has been a red month. So it would be surprising if we kind of just stall out here and hang around in the mid 440s. No, that's kind of what we kind of almost expected in a sense, or at least we're somewhat prepared for, right? Mentally. I think at least I know we talked about it here, at least in recent videos for sure. So there's that. There's SPY. We got to get up over that 445, and then we'll see what happens this week. All-time highs could be, we could be within reach, although I would like to see more of a consolidation. But again, does the market care what I would like to see? No, it doesn't. IWM. So this is going to be key. I think this is going to be one to watch. Actually had an interesting, slightly red day. Or not, about down 0.5% on Friday on small caps. So I'm kind of surprised with that, but I want to see IWM holding up in the 220s and then making making its strides from here. We are, worst case scenario, this thing comes down to 215, and it's been bouncing really nicely under 215. So, of course it can go lower, but that's kind of where I'm looking at for a really good dip buying opportunity on small caps if we get that dip down to that range. Again, though, if the market kind of rallies back and we see things kind of, regaining strength, I would expect IWM breaks out in the coming months. I think November is historically, if I recall correctly from a past video, November historically is one of the strongest months for small caps, and I think last year it was extremely strong, and it's been very, very strong historically. So November is a pretty good, month, and we're about a month away, a little bit over a month away from that. So we could be setting up for kind of letting it do its thing, and then within a month, boom, break out, and there goes that push on small caps that we're, somewhat expecting. Again, doesn't have to happen, but somewhat expecting that at some point soon, because we have been consolidating for, a good 8, almost 9 months or so right now. So it's been, pretty much the entire year so far of 2021 that we've been consolidating between this 235 and this 210 on IWM. So that's what we'll be watching. All right. Hope everyone's doing well. How are you feeling about TMC? Yeah, this is an interesting one. I saw a lot. I really saw this is one that I've got some questions and people ask, because I made the video recently talking about paying for some of those groups and just seeing, kind of testing some things out, right? Testing the waters with some other bigger names. There's some people who are, have popular Patreons, alert services, trading, gurus, right? As you want to call them. And one of them that isn't paid, but one of them that someone and people have asked about too is Atlas. So I figured I'll probably make a video on that at some point in the future. But if you guys don't know, it's a free Discord group. A lot of big names on Twitter are either a part of Atlas, or they're, somewhat friends with some traders who are in Atlas. And really what it is it's a massive community with like over, I think at least well over 100, maybe 200,000+ people, at least members on the Discord. I'm not sure how many are active at the current time. But there's a lot of channels. There's a lot more than just like their main trading floor. But some of the guys in there were really talking about TMC, saying this is going to be a great play. It's going to make a nice move up, and it really just took an absolute beating. And they were talking about this thing as it was in the 13s, the 12s, and the 10s. The dip buy under 10, and then buying this thing down 8s. Next thing you know, it's at 5. It is oversold, I will say, but that doesn't mean that it can't go lower. So that's the only concern I have there. It doesn't mean it can't go lower. Could we get a dead cat bounce, and could this thing bounce back up to like $7 in a day? It could certainly do that within a day. I would say it's fairly possible, and then fall right back off. But personally, I don't know. I would want to see it kind of establishing some support. The problem here is that we've just been kind of straight down, albeit right based on this past month of trading. Yeah, it's oversold, but doesn't mean it could go lower. It certainly could. So if you're going to take a shot at it, the way I would look at it would be I would be going in small here, adding small, and then looking for a rebound, kind of mercy exit in a sense, or a rebound. This thing gets back up to that 7, fills this gap up here towards that $7, gets back up towards 9. That could be an area of resistance as prior support. It could be an area of resistance here as it gets back up towards 9. Obviously, longevity-wise, right, there's a different story there, but longer term, if you're more of a fundamental investor, that's a different story. This could be an opportunity for you, right? But it got hammered. I will say it got absolutely hammered. Hexo bottomed out. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of interest in the cannabis sector. So we can talk about that ride. Little Lordstown Motors. It's been perking up, and we've been seeing some of the EVs doing really well. Fisker, for example, last week had a nice week after, I think, going sub 13, maybe even sub 12. I forget. We can talk about that too. But this is interesting because we had Lucid that's doing quite well. Lucid did well last week in the past 2 weeks. We see Ride pushing up off the lows. This thing, has been getting beaten down. There's been lots of press, so lots of news, negative news that's in recent months on Ride, and this thing has been getting beaten down, and now it's kind of starting to curl off the bottom. So this has range. This thing certainly has range. I mean, this thing, obviously, I don't want to get people's hopes up and say, oh yeah, it's going to go back to where it was trading, end of last year. No, I'm not saying it's going to go there, next couple of weeks. It certainly could have got some crazy squeeze, but this thing certainly can get back up into. I would say here'd be a target for me right here. This area right here up towards that 12 to 13, that seems like a legitimate, that's still a decent shot from where it's at. It seems like a legitimate potential target if this continues to get that momentum and buying volume coming in. It's probably going to struggle up here in that 9 to 10 range, but if it can get through that, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 12 to 13 as an area. That was an area we found support back in here. Also an area that was resistance back in here, which was the beginning or end of, the beginning of April. On Ride. So talking about the EVs, right? FSR had a good week, right? So look at this. FSR dipped. It dipped down to the low 12s, and then it rebounded and actually finished up here, and it got over 15 on Friday, but then it ended up closing just below. So FSR is interesting. It got back up over this area right here, which is the 1450s. Over that, I like it. So if it can hold up over the 1450 level here, there's a gap back down towards about 1375. If it can hold up over that 1450, I think it looks pretty strong. FSR is a great stock. I've had quite a number of videos, or at least I used to make, talking about FSR a little more back, early SPAC days and whatever. And the thing with FSR for me has been, it's been a rinse and repeat. This thing goes under that 15 level. It's been a great buy. Honestly, there's even been opportunities under 10. Under 10, even better. And it's been a decent sell up over 15, right? So, accumulating on dips, and then, there's even opportunities here where you've had, Fisker up over 30, right? It even went up over 20 a couple weeks back, right? So there's opportunity. The thing with Fisker is that they still don't have production until the end of 2022. So again, they have been updating and saying, hey, we're on pace, but they still don't have production until the end of 2022. So we still are about a year plus out for Fisker, right? Till we can even see cars on the road, till we can see, actual consumers taking advantage of the car, right? And using the car. So that's been my biggest thing. As much as you can play the technicals in the short term, sure, you can. And this has been one that's been, once it starts getting really oversold, it's been a good buy. And we're talking about once we start seeing these hard V-shape kind of moves, or these hard moves to the downside after we break through support, they've been decent buying opportunities if you're willing to swing it. But again, the longevity here will ultimately be how this company does once production hits and whatnot. So that's what I've been talking about. HEXO, I recall us talking about this one a while back. And it's gone even lower. So here's what I kind of like though. We have a gap. So we have this little gap I have on the chart right now, right? So here's our gap. Let me zoom in a little bit better so we can see this a little bit clearer. Here's our gap. Our gap begins here at this 270, and then it gets you up towards about 315. 50 SMA will be up around 307. It probably will be roughly around $3. I would say if I was to be in Hexo right now, HEXO, I would be looking at a target of $3 for a swing trade. Only problem that I have with this is that this sector is very historically, or at least in recent months, recent year or so, go back a year or so, the cannabis sector was extremely overvalued. A lot of these stocks were extremely overvalued fundamentally. It doesn't mean that they can't go further. They obviously went further. SNDL, Tilray, they had some crazy squeeze. They had some crazy runs. Could we see the end? I think we certainly could. But it's like what's seemingly happening here is they're just going to keep going down till they bleed everybody out. All the bag holders finally cut a loss, and then it's going to go. So the way that I like to see some of these is I like to see them getting beat down for a long time, things being quiet for a while, and then that's where you start thinking about taking an entry. Also have to look into risk of an offering, their cash position and whatnot for HEXO. But that said, I think this is a decent shot for a move to $3, which if you look at where it's at right now, under 2 seems like, in my opinion, seems like a decent ad zone. Under 2 with a shot to 3 would be over 50%, right? So if we take a look, this also, we're looking at a sub 400 million market cap. We have to look back to the left. We're looking at the weekly chart right now. So each of these candles is now 1 week. I'm going to draw a line right here. I'm going to draw a line here at the weekly support. So we had a support here at 138. That is the lowest HEXO has gone. I will also draw a line here as where it kind of held up after that. It looks like 175. So between that 175 and that 138 seems to me like a zone that I would be looking to buy this thing in. Now, could it hold up where it's at right now? Because, okay, look back to the left. Look at where this thing was in 2020. Early 2020, this thing dipped down, and this is where it found support. So this is where I would be personally looking, and look at the steep decline. There are certainly, the only problem is that there's going to be a lot of bag holders in this thing. And what I say is that there are people who bought this thing back in here up well over 3, people who bought this thing, back on the dips, right? Earlier this year when it was back up around 5 or 6, and now it's sub 2, right? So that's the problem, is that you might get some relief balances, but it's less of an organic, or it could be less of a wild runner unless there's a big change, there's news or something happens, or you get a big fundamental, or you get a big squeeze, or a lot of traders get behind a stock for whatever reason, which can happen at any time, right? But I kind of like it down here. Under 2 seems like a good spot to me. Be patient. I would want to make sure I would refer you back to a recent video that I had on the penny stocks to buy now. We don't talk about specific, okay, buy this stock now because it's going to go up. We talk about what stocks and what characteristics, what qualities, what things you should be looking for in a stock. And we dive deeper into looking at the cash, the sector, the news, all that stuff. So that's what I would refer you to now dive deeper into HEXO. But I like it. It's a play it's on my, I'm going to add it to my list. It was on my list. I want to actually add it to my list to look a little bit deeper into their cash standing and whatnot. Next, okay. Any looking like it may be going. Speaking of any, let's talk about Bitcoin really quick. I want to pull that up because that is going to be interesting to see how that plays out this week. So Bitcoin 43. So it's holding up here roughly at this level right here, which is our new support here. Was a prior resistance, is 41.5 area, 41.5. It held up roughly there, and it's looking to bounce. I want to see Bitcoin bouncing from this level and making a move to 50 plus. That is what I would like to see, but we'll see how this plays out going forward. Lower end, or I don't want to say last ditch support. It's not last ditch, but a lower level support here would be down towards about 38,000 or so. Would like to see that area hold up on Bitcoin. But that said, okay, let's look at any. This is good. This is an interesting play. I actually think this has been one that has been just kind of holding up. And if Bitcoin stays fairly strong, this could be an interesting play. So I like it right here. As long as it holds up over 550, this looks pretty good to me. So a sub 6 entry on any. I'm going to add that to my list as well for this week, if I can grab it. A sub $6 entry on any with a stop loss at 550. Seems like a pretty good plan to me. 50 SMA is creeping up, but it's been holding up. So the longer it holds up here, the higher the probability that we do see a squeeze back to the upside, which could send us up towards that $10 level. We'll see, but my target would be up towards that 8 to 9, and then 10 maybe being that resistance. But we could, if we get some volume, it could certainly go beyond. And he's been a very interesting play. It has been kind of just quietly doing its thing. So this could be an opportunity, this week. If it's quiet, this could be an opportunity to snag it down here under 6 while no one's looking. And then next thing you know, and everyone kind of circles back to it as it keeps holding up, holding support, you're already in. You're already there, right? I like that idea. Let's see. AMC's been weird. It's been weird. I get the sense, just my kind of, my sense has been this week, it kind of just seemingly lost. It's losing volume. So look at the volume bars on the bottom. It's just continuously losing volume ever since it made that push up towards that 48 to 50K. It's been kind of slowly declining. So key is the volume. If everyone, like we had only 32 million shares traded on Friday. Again, it's a Friday. It's a slower day in general. Yes. Only 32 million shares isn't that much. The day before, 41 million. The day before that, 52. The day before that, 64. And then 70. Yeah, you want to be seeing 50 plus at least million shares traded on AMC per day for this thing to have a shot back up to that 50 plus. AMC just kind of sits around. I don't know. It's boring. It's been boring. I think people may be losing interest. But if small caps heat up, if some of the money comes back in, and one thing to also note too, some of these crazy moves. We'll talk about CEI. We'll talk about some of these kind of I don't want to call them, but they are. They're kind of crowded. The crowded stocks. That's a good thing, right? You want to think like seeing CEI go crazy. I don't care that I'm not in. I don't care if you're not. It doesn't matter. But seeing something like this go crazy and seeing like even BBIG, those past plays or even, current plays like CEI, seeing this is great because people who are in, what's it doing? It's people who are in who are, let's say they're following somebody on social media because they're just going to jump in it and that's it, which is fine. And you can make some money. The problem is long-term strategy. Most people are not going to end up being profitable like that because they follow somebody, they make a lot of money, and then they go ahead and do their own thing and they go do this, they go do that, and they make stupid decisions and they just lose it all, right? So we don't want to do that, obviously. If you're someone who has gotten, I don't want to say lucky, but if you got lucky, it's time to kind of learn from how you got lucky, what happened, and start to see if you can replicate that with optimal risk management, risk reward, and continue to find plays and put yourself in positive risk reward situations so that you can be kind of consistent if you do kind of get lucky. Everyone's not going to, no one wants to admit that, but sometimes people, I think it's really important if you can realize, hey, that was luck. I don't want to replicate that exact same thing because, hey, that's not going to be consistently long term. Then, that's good. But this type of stuff is good because CEI goes crazy. Other stocks go crazy. What happens? People make money. They're excited. They want the next one. They want the next one. They want the next one. Then you have people who missed out on CEI. You have people who missed out on that next play who want the next one. They keep missing out. They want the next one. Then people take profits. They roll their profits from this stock into the next one. And so more money starts flowing around in the small cap space or in kind of some of these popular social media names. So it allows them to kind of have a little bit longer sustained runs. And so you'll see in the next couple of months, I would imagine, unless something crazy happens, what we're probably going to see is we're going to see more and more kind of bigger runners or bigger 100, 200, 500% plays over the course of a couple of weeks. We're going to see more of those than we obviously have been the past 6 months. And that's going to be great because if you can identify the stocks that are nice and quiet, that are nice and low, that have catalysts, that have a lot of cash, that seem promising, right? They're in a hot sector, that everything looks pretty good to you, right? It's only a matter of time until the crowd circles to that. And as long as you're in early, your risk reward is awesome and you can make a ton of money doing that. And so that's the core of at least my strategies going into the coming months. So that's why I think CEI is it's going to be a great thing. CEI, is it a good buy is it a good buy at the current levels? I personally, it's not, this would go 100% against any of my strategies. So that's just me, but it has been strong. I'm not going to sit here and say this thing hasn't been strong because it certainly has, but we're coming up to some pretty crucial levels on CEI. So we talked about, I believe I made a video on Saturday on the Stock Trends channel. There should be a link down below in the description box for that. we pretty much talk about what's hot. We talk support, resistance. We talk about what's going on. And a lot of times on that channel, we talk about stuff like almost at the peak. And it's also there to make sure people are aware of the downside, because a lot of people get FOMO'd in. And I'm not going to sit here and say that CEI is not going to go to 10. It could go to 10. I don't know. But we are coming up to this 235, 260, and then $3, and then 310. So this is going to be a pretty substantial area to clear through. I would not be surprised if it does pull back substantially at some point. And then that would be a potential better dip buy, as long as fundamentally speaking, everything is still lining up, right? There's low threat for dilution. The company is progressing and they're making strides. If that is all happening, then pullbacks, substantial pullbacks from this level, I think could be good buys. But I also don't want to get you caught up in literally buying something exactly like this that we saw early this year, where CEI goes to 3, and then the next 6 to 10 months, the thing goes from 3 back to 2, and then eventually down to sub 50 cents. I just don't want to, as long as you're not going to hold through something like that, maybe personally, I would be looking for dips down versus $2. 193 is the support we've been seeing the past couple of days, actually. Yeah, we dipped to that area on Friday, so 193 is your support right now. Below that, 180, and below that, 150 are your areas to watch on CEI. We are coming up to some key areas of resistance, at least on that guy. So I'd be a little bit cautious to some degree there on that. Personally, doesn't fit my style, but doesn't mean that someone else can't make money on that, right? Long or short. And another thing too, ACY. ACY is just an absolute. It makes no sense. I'm gonna say it. I've said it before. It makes absolutely no sense. It just, unless I haven't been keeping up, but the last that I checked about what's going on behind the scenes here, the people, I forget who exactly it was. It was some people in China. Who gave essentially a donation to keep them alive, to keep them going, so they don't go bankrupt. They got in at they were given shares at like $3 a share, and they funded like $11 million to kind of get them off the ground again. So those are the guys who are laughing right now, and because they're up, from $3 a share or around that level. Go back to that. That's like down here. They're up 1,700%. No biggie, right? This is nuts. I mean, I would stay away. I did see someone who, this is a super low float. This is the only problem here. This is a super, super, super low float. So I tried to short it in the past, and I was up, and then I didn't have a stop on it, and I got not blown up, but it was a bigger loss than I should have taken. The risk reward, right? I took too much risk for the reward that I was looking to get, which was stupid of me. And that was months ago. And this thing is continuing to climb. So at that point, I gave up on that. I wasn't going to mess with it. Because sometimes, fundamentally it just doesn't work out. But it was kind of slowly kind of grinding up. And then once it blew up over these areas, this 38 and this 40, the areas that it hit highs back in August, once it cleared those levels, it was off to the race. This thing was just going to, I wouldn't be surprised if we see $100. Is it worth $100? I think absolutely not. And it's probably worth way less. It's worth a fraction of that, but doesn't mean it can't keep going. Low floats, the power of low floats, right? And that's another thing too. The whole low float game, but let's just look at some, because we're gonna get some of that action in the coming months. I know it for sure. It happens every year, and it happens all the time, where you just see some random stocks running up. So here's FinViz, and for those who are not aware, what is generally a decent strategy. Now, I would make sure you have more to that strategy. But let's just look at. Let's look at small caps. I want to look at small caps under 2 billion market cap. Actually, let's look at micro caps. This is probably even a better way to go about it. And we look at the float, which is the amount of shares available to the public. So if you look at the float and you see the float under 10 million, there's a lot of stocks on this list that are in that kind of category. But if you look at the chart feature right here on FinViz, what I'd be looking at is not charts like AAMC. No, I don't care about that. That just recently ran. No, but charts like AAME, bottoming out, prior history of runs. These are the bottomed out charts that are kind of coiling up in a sense, that there's coiling, holding support. These are the stocks that I think are interesting in the coming months, because a lot of these are going to go at some point. They're all going to get a good run, whether they get news or whether they just literally get pumped. And it's so easy to do, because all you have to do is slap a couple million share or a couple 100,000 shares and the thing goes crazy because they only have on a lot of these, let's just look at stocks under 5 million float. Let's see how many we narrow that down to. We still got 200 tickers. Let's go under a million. How many we got? 24. So here we go. 24 stocks with under a 1 million float. Here's where I'd be looking at. These are micro floats. Absolutely, like these things are the thinnest stocks on the market, right? Like if somebody had $1 million or $100,000, probably only $100,000, and they clicked market buy on a random day, it would probably send the thing up 5-10%. But look, FWP is an interesting one. It recently made a nice run, super low float, bottoming out, potentially an idea. Some of these with super low volume, I would want to probably stay away. But some of the charts that look like they're holding up, these are the stocks I'd be interested in potentially taking a shot at. JRJC, I think that's a China stock. I personally am not a huge fan of what's going on in China. I would stay away. That's just me. Does that mean that they're bad investments? No. The risk reward doesn't make sense with a lot of the news we've been seeing out of China and so forth. But these are going to go. A lot of these are going to go. They're going to have crazy time. Look, NTZ is a crazy one. NTZ, if I recall, I would have to go back. Let's go back to Webull here. I got to go back to NTZ. This one, I remember this. This was a crazy one. Maybe if you guys are been here for a long time, you would know. I was in NTZ back in August of 2020. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Look at this thing. Look at how it progressed. Absolutely insane. I was in this thing when it was like sub $1. And I remember, maybe there's a reverse split here, so it's skewed. But I remember being in it this day right here where it gapped up from, let's say, $1 up towards like $2.50, up over 100%. Like that. Super thin, super low float. That was August last year. But again, look what happened this time last year. Low float stock. What happened? September, quiet. Mid-September, October, curl, boom. Explosion. This thing went, hundreds. And now we're talking almost 1,000%, or at least maybe we're up over 1,000% since this time last year. So there's a lot of these low floats that if you can start to dial in and find one that actually has a decent amount of cash, fundamentally there's catalysts upcoming. It's not a dead sector. It's not a dead industry. It's not a dead end company, at least in the short term. There's going to be a lot of opportunities like this going forward. So NTZ is a cool example I like to talk about. I also just finished up really nice last week. So there's that. Let's see. ACB or cannabis earnings tomorrow. CI, good. Could we talk about that? ATR. I did not talk about ATR yet. I'm gonna go through and grab a lot of these tickers in the comments really quick. We haven't, but it is trying to hold up here. It's putting in higher lows. Let's see. We actually have a double bottom. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to zoom in on the daily right here. Double bottom. Two of these candles. I'm going to draw a line. We have two candles hitting the exact same spot and bouncing, which is 11.20-ish. So I would say $11. Under $11, I would cut it because then it can come down sub 10 pretty easily. But if it holds 11, it looks like it has a shot to make a move back up into the mid to upper teens, as long as these higher lows hold up. So that's what I'd be watching on ATR. Not a bad play. Personally, for me, doesn't fit what I want to look for right now, but a couple weeks ago, maybe it would. Just didn't cross my personal radar at the time, Let's see. Options play on SoFi. Let me take a look. Let me take a look at SoFi. I've said, and in the past, look at this. Nice $18 resistance here, though. It was pre-earnings is when I was back in. I just took it off before the earnings, and then eventually we pulled back. It is what it is. I think SoFi is going to be a, $25 to $50+ stock pretty easily in the coming years. I wouldn't worry too much. This is one that I would put in the Roth IRA and kind of forget about. Personally, I just added Tesla in, a decent chunk of my Roth IRA into Tesla. And so for those who are not familiar, I would highly recommend the video. If you go to my channel, homepage, that's the first video, the number one investment you need to make. I talk deeper about the Roth IRA and why I think it's so important. But Tesla, look, it's up at resistance right now, but I think we're looking for a breakout here. I think over this 775 to 800, it's going to be key. We might get it this week if the market's decent. If the market's holding up, I think Tesla breaks out over this 800. But I think we're going for 1,000 here soon on Tesla. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 1,000 before year end on Tesla. Sounds kind of crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised. Momentum has kind of just slowly kind of just been holding up, trending up, trending up, trending up, trending. And I think we're getting ready for the next leg up, a little squeeze out or whatever you want to call it, on Tesla. So I like that. And I think the EVs behind it will be holding up decently as well, which, there's your Fisker, your Lucid, you have your Ride, your Lordstown Motors. There's a lot more where that came from. And a lot of them had made nice moves last week, especially on Friday, with Tesla pushing up as well. Let's see. CHPT. This is an interesting one because we were just talking about Tesla. CHPT. We got ChargePoint, right? Yeah. Look at this. Oh my. We could dip lower. This could go lower. But why I say oh my is because we are literally at support. We are at support. This is looking really, really interesting. Under $20 on ChargePoint. I've been seeing more and more of these popping up just downtown in Austin where I live. I would want to fundamentally look in deeper before I, let's say, made a hefty investment or a hefty position or took a hefty position. But that said, technically speaking, it looks really good. I think you're setting up for an opportunity right from where it's at right now for a nice bounce of at least 25% up towards that 25 level. And then I think we can, longer term, I think we could see a lot more on ChargePoint longer term. So it's one that I probably wouldn't want to be looking to sell unless something fundamentally big changes anytime soon. If I'm going to grab this thing under $20, under $20, I think is a good steal. You're going to look back in a couple of years on ChargePoint and go, I could have got that for under $20. That's at least my take on that. So I like it. I like it where it's at. Really good support level right here. So CHPT, let's see. DPW is an interesting one because DPW has it's funny because they have kind of gone the route to some degree, not Domino's, DP Dubs. They've gone the route of almost trading stocks themselves. Like they have a large position in, I believe, ALZN, which has been getting beaten down, and they have some more as well. I want to look again back. I forget. I have my list on that. But the thing that's interesting is that DPW is absolutely bottoming out here at this 215. One thing to also note, if we go to FinViz, and we go to our good friend DP Dubs. What do we got? Scroll down. The insider, Alt Middleton. This is like the CEO, I guess, or executive chairman. I guess is what you can call him. He was the CEO or chairman and CEO. Maybe his title changed. I don't know. Has been buying this thing throughout September. Like almost every other day, it seems like he's been just grabbing shares. Anything under $3 is what he's in, and he's been buying that for a while now. Anything under $3, so we'll see. He's got a lot of shares. We'll see if it pays off for him. But that's interesting to note. I know some people hate DPW, but I played it back in here, November of last year. Had a crazy move November of last year, and this is one of those plays. It's setting up as a potential idea for a swing. It's at support. We got a good support here down like 215. I wouldn't want to hold it below $2. So I would say between $2.25 and $2 is where I'd be buying this thing, and that's it. And then I cut it underneath. And then targets, realistic targets, I wouldn't want to sell it until I get to $3. I mean, I think $3 plus is very realistic on DPW. Take a look. We are, these 2 points right here on the chart literally line up at exactly $3, $2.93, $2.95. So, from where you're at right now, this would offer you a nice 30%, which is beautiful. I mean, the way that I look at my swings, I need to see that the potential swing trade for me chart-wise must, based on the chart only at least, there's more I look into, but based on the chart, it must offer me at least 25% to the next resistance level that I'm looking to target. If I see that, then it fits that kind of that checkpoint, right? That piece of criteria. So for me, right, this is pretty good. Now you look at the downside here. Okay, so if you take it from where it's at right now and you risk it down, you put a hard stop loss under 2, you're going to risk yourself about 11% for at least 30%. You're almost talking about a 3-to-1 ratio there in terms of reward to risk. It's pretty good. I need, for me, also at least a 2-to-1. It's one of those rules, and I can even pull it up too. I should pull it up too. If you guys haven't already seen, I would recommend it. This is one of those things that I have done. Let me go to like Twitter and see if I can pull it up. really quick. I'll pull up. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so let me pull up this account. This is a new account that I created. I feel bad. Someone asked to follow them. I don't follow anybody in this account, but it's just my name, at Thomas Carvo. I have another account, personal account that I've had for a while. I don't post on that. I'm posting more stock stuff here, links to videos and charts that I like and stuff like that, or just stuff that I see. I'm not calling plays out. I'm not doing none of that stuff, but it's interesting. I put this out. This is my current trading rules. So here's a copy of what it is. This is what I'd recommend someone do, and either have it on your desk, take a screenshot, put it on your phone, so that before you make a trade, please, like, you know what I'm saying? Before you make a trade, at least you can look at this stuff and you can say, okay, so for example, one of those things, the reward must outweigh the risk 2-to-1 or better. So that's one of those rules that I have. That is my rule, right? So I'd recommend taking a look at that type of stuff, or at least making one of those for yourself. It's a good check, at least for me. Callum, how's it going? How is it? I mean, sorry, I'm getting to the messages late. CEI is way over. Yeah, that's how I would see it too. But again, it's been strong. So could it go for more if the market stays fairly warm and just holding up? Sure. I would say up into that 3 range, and then I would say a pullback, and then who knows if it can go from there. We will see. The platform that we're using here is Webull. Should be a link in the pinned comment if you're interested. Free stocks, whatever. Don't use it, whatever you want to do. RNAZ has a T+2 setup. Great range. Let's take a look. RNAZ. I remember this thing making a move, I think, last week, right? Yeah, it did. And this is actually, I like this one as well. Why? Because this is setting up really interesting. Because what happened, right? We had a crazy move. Look at this. Up on the top left. This is actually, we'll see this one play out literally live. I'm going to put it on my list for tomorrow as like a high watch. RNAZ. Why? Because this thing had a crazy volume day on the 23rd, where it traded 225 million shares on this day. The next day, it traded almost not even 6 million shares. So it traded 200 million, the next day 6. Why is that interesting? Because this is interesting because there are probably shorts who are in this stock who haven't covered. And if you think about the amount of volume, all you need is a couple million shares to get bought back up, which could happen not only from a short covering, it could also happen just from some buying. So this comes in, you have some shorts that need to cover. All of a sudden, if this thing starts holding up tomorrow, let's look at the 1-hour chart. Here we go. If this thing holds up over 350, roughly, I would give it down to maybe 325 lowest. That's how I play it. If it holds up in this level, I would not be surprised if this thing gets back up to 4 to 5 plus. Like easy. Because we had traded so much. There was a huge volume day, and that volume wasn't kind of followed up remotely close the next day. Now, if we had traded on the 23rd, right, we traded 225 million shares. If on the 24th, we traded 100 million shares, I would say no. No, this is not a viable kind of idea or thought process to have. But because we only traded 6 million, we traded sub 10 million after trading 225 million, there's going to be something there, I think. We'll see. If it holds up on that 350, 325, I think we can see a move to 4 plus pretty easily, and maybe even more. We'll see how that goes. But depends also on the next shiny object. What do we get? Is there going to be something else everyone's looking at tomorrow? If everyone starts jumping on this new stock that comes out at 7 a.m. Eastern, drop some fire phase 3 positive results news or FDA approval or this or that, well, then everyone's jumping ship, right? But if it's quiet, this is one to have on your watch list for a nice move. And I would want to say, like, yeah, it would be a day trade for me if I was in, but I don't think it needs to be like a very complicated trade here. You grab it here if you can grab it. You put a stop loss at 223 or something like that, at 323, sorry. So you already know your risk, and then you let it do its thing, and you check back every couple hours throughout the day if you're at school, work, wherever. And I think you can look back and either you just hits your stop loss and it is what it is, or it'll be up over 4 and you move your stop loss up, or just go and cut that stop loss and go take profits and move on. That's how I would play it. Possibly for tomorrow or Tuesday. But that's it. That's that. Let's see. SoFi, we talked about that. Lucid, we talked about CHPT. Lucid, I think, let's take a look. LCID. What do we got? Okay, this is coming up to an area of resistance. It got up there this past week. I'm going to zoom out. Sorry. Okay, let's fix this chart. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, yes. So we have resistance up here. Upper 20s to 30 is resistance right now on Lucid. So we're holding up. Looks like around 24-ish. If that area holds up, 24, 25 holds up and bases out, I think we can certainly see a break up over 30 and a move to 35. We certainly could, but that we are up at a pretty substantial area on Lucid. Now, these are some good dips, sub 20. I mean, if you grabbed it for the long term, let's say an IRA, a long-term just investment, whatever you want. I mean, that was an awesome opportunity, I think. But right now, I would want to see it holding up over 24 for a move to 30 plus. But there is going to be some strong resistance as you get up towards that 28 to 30 range. You know, the past couple of months, really this whole summer, we have been rejected there once, twice, 3 times, 4 times now. So again, eventually that's going to break, but it's showing us it's a pretty strong area of resistance right now. All right, let's see. Get some rest, Cal. It's got to be super late in the UK. Super late. CHBT oscillating VWAP. Failing to break the 20. SOS. This is a funny one. It's a Chinese company, though. This is why everyone's kind of staying away. The problem here is that China just had some news banning. China, every couple of years or every year, bans cryptocurrency transactions and whatnot. And it's hilarious because I saw some stat or something where people are like looking back to every time China bans crypto, like the percent return from that point to now. And it's like, it's showing you. It seemingly happens all the time. The problem here is that SOS fits that mold. While they mine Ethereum, Bitcoin, whatever, at least, that was where all the hype was. This is either going to be this is either one of those China failure scams or it's going to be like a massive play because we're looking at where it's at right now. They had some earnings come out recently, I believe, and everyone's like, whoa. Or it's either like the most obvious trade to the long side or this thing is going to just kind of fizzle out and that's it. And it's going to be one of those rats. It's coming down low. Personally, I would be staying away unless I truly fundamentally was very confident in things turning around. Now, the risk reward here is pretty good. So, I'm not going to say the risk. Technically speaking, this is the type of chart. If I was looking at the technicals only and not looking at the bigger picture, fundamentals on SOS, technicals only, I like it. This is something that I'd be looking to buy into the coming weeks and months for a bigger move up. And I think we can probably see, technically speaking, up towards that $4 to $5 would be where I'd be looking to target. But I don't know. For me, I personally just stay away. Just my preference. Nothing against SOS, but NAK prime for a run. Here's the problem with NAK. Now, I have seen some due diligence on it, so I'm not going to discount the due diligence and people have talked about. I just personally don't know enough about what that means for them, realistically, in terms of some of the stuff I saw on Twitter. But it has been getting absolutely loaded. Look at this. Here's an example of volume before price. What you're noticing is ever since September began, look at these volume. Now, okay, this thing was bouncing around 10 to 15% over the course of these past couple of weeks, but the volume was massive compared to what it was. And then look at this extension on Thursday. A crazy move from the 46 cent level to 62. That was a pretty big move. So we went up roughly 30% in one day. It pulled back, but now look at these highs. Prior highs, I want to see NAK holding 50 cents. If it can hold 50 cents, great. If not, the mid 40s would be the next area of support to watch. It has been building for sure. The only problem that I have is that when did I notice this thing started to push up? When did I notice the volume? The volume almost only, from my understanding, was coming from social media and people talking about this is the next, CEI to play. And what you're going to notice is a lot of these pennies, these sub $1 stocks, there is historically a time of year, I want to say it happens roughly every December or something like that, where these things start to make some crazy moves off their bottoms. And they have, because they're cheap, they get the attention, they get people excited, and they can make some crazy moves percentage-wise. But the risks here are dilution, and your risks are reverse stock splits. And take a look at one example, FAMI. This one was exactly that. The next CEI, the next crazy, penny, micro penny, which is a sub $1 play, sub $1 stock. We sometimes call them micro pennies. The micro penny to go from 40 cents to $1 or 80 cents, or to go 100% for with no reason, or for whatever reason people made up on Twitter. Then they did a dirty offering. The thing was up at 58. They offered. Next day it was down sub 30 and has been draining since. And now it actually dipped down Friday, dipped down just below 20 cents. The reality behind this one is that for most likely, they're probably going to have to do a reverse stock split, get themselves back up over $1, and rinse and repeat. Most likely, unless they can get themselves together fundamentally. I wouldn't be opposed to grabbing it down here, to be honest. Probably has a decent opportunity. But I would rather stay away from NAK. Now, could this thing go to, dollar plus? Sure. Rather stay away from NAK and go find the ones that haven't run. So FAMI has gotten people burned, but now that it's come down sub 20 cents, it could be an opportunity. TLGT, here's one. TLGT. Take a look at this one. This is one that I've had on my list for months. I've never actually gotten in a long time. I think I was in maybe back this point last year, roughly, last year, end of the year. But now this thing is beaten down so much. Look at this thing. This is one of those that's quiet. So I'd rather focus on something like this, away from the ones that are going to get the traditional kind of social media pump. NAKD is also one. This is a funny one too. NAKD. This one could be a monster. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see $1 plus, if we see some type of crazy move like we saw this time last year or at the beginning of this year. Why? Meme potential. Naked. NAKD. Naked brand, right? The memes there could be endless memes on this thing, right? And it kind of got that attention back in beginning of this past year, late January, early February. But they also had some recent news, I believe. Let's take a look. Let's pull it up. This is fun to look at. Okay, where is it? I want to go to Seeking Alpha. Pull up the latest PR from NAKD. Let's pull it up. Provides update to chairman's address. Meeting of shareholders. Okay, so here we go. They talked meeting to shareholders. They have a net cash position of $270 million. Okay, so here's why this starts to interest me. Because their net cash is $270 million. You go back to Webull. Their market cap here is apparently $620 million. So they have like almost half the market cap in cash. Decent. But again, what's the debt and whatnot? Different story, right? There could be a bigger story there to pull back the curtain, right? Let's see. We believe we have found a disruptive opportunity in the clean technology sector. So this could be potentially a massive 180 from apparel, right? That's what they did. That's what they were doing, right? From being like an online retailer, or at least they made the transition online, a retailer, to now going into the clean technology sector. Like what? Like this could be huge, but they could be looking for a business combination. So this could be a massive play at some point in the coming months, weeks. So I mean, there's good support here down towards like 50 something cents. So if you're interested in it, I mean, there's some resistance here at 75, over 75. I think there's almost a clean shot up to $1 on NAKD. So if it gets over 75, a clean shot to $1. Now it finished strong in the after hours too. So it may open up over that level on Monday and it may make that move pretty fast. This is one I'd watch as one of those kind of micro pennies, under $1 stocks. Just have on your radar with the potential. I mean, personally for me, I wouldn't really be very heavy in this play, but toss a few dollars into it for the meme potential and for the potential run, because it has historically been a very cult type stock where a lot of people can get behind it on social media and you can see a big following quickly. Stock twits, Twitter, even you'll probably see it on YouTube if it gets going. It's one of those stocks. And again, this the day and age, right? It's crazy to think that this day and age, there are literally people who make a full-time or make more money than you could ever imagine, right? Literally just talking about the short squeeze potential of one stock and one stock only. AMC, There was GameStop. There was some BBIG attention. Maybe that one's fading off. I don't know. But there are these channels that will just focus in and make, 5 videos a day on one stock. And like these guys will make so that's what I'm talking about when I talk about a cult following, because if they're doing that, there's obviously an audience. Do you think that their audience isn't in? No, their audience is probably all in the stock. They're all in the same exact thing. So it makes it a very crowded trade, which is good and bad. It could be good if it's super crowded to the long side. Well, then you can get a squeeze, a crazy squeeze. But if it's already up a couple 100%, it makes it as a very easy target for a downside or for a short. And that's what people have been taking advantage of. Now, at the same time, I will say, I have seen people who have had very nasty bias kind of in one direction or the other on CEI specifically. I've seen those who are the more professional traders. For example, one of the groups that I talked about a couple videos ago, one of those gurus, I guess, has been fairly, he ultimately at the end of the day is going to do what he does every day. And he's mostly cash in his day trade account. He has some swings, but has been looking to hammer CEI and has been joking about it. But the thing has been so strong. And so that's an example, I think, that to have a bias, whether you like it or not, right? Whether you like the retail crowded trades or not, whether, you're missing out, you have the FOMO, having a bias is not good. So if you look at CEI and say you missed out and you think it's a POS and you think it's going to go down sub $1, again, that's cool, but keep your bias out of this thing, because what happens here is if the chart is setting up and the momentum's there and the volume is there, you can easily get squeezed out. And the same exact thing goes on the opposite side. If you're looking at CEI now and you're thinking it's the next best thing on planet Earth, it's going to be an amazing long-term investment, and you start buying this thing with your entire portfolio here at up over 2, when it's up, like look at how much is up in the recent weeks. It's up 500% roughly. Like, does that make any sense? Like, you could go find something else and put in a little bit of time and find something else you think has this type of potential and have a nice risk reward, or you can go buy something now that's up massively and take that risk. And at that point, you're probably going to be sweating. Your palms will be sweaty. You'll be, your pits will be soaked. You'll be sitting at your screen. You'll be watching your phone at work, at school, wherever, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I got to be in it. You're gonna be every tick, you're going to be freaking out. There's no need for that. Absolutely not. Okay. Let me see. I'm scrolling through. Please do not spam. If you spam stuff, I will not be commenting on that. It's just a waste of time. Let's see. LRCX, AMAT, both large cap semiconductors. I like the semiconductor plays. I think LRCX. This has been interesting. It's been holding up. LRCX, right? Is that correct? Yeah. This is a nice setup here. Look at this. Look where it's at. You kind of have a nice consolidation right here. You're in a range from, looks like 560 up towards that 660. So you're on the $100 range, as low as you can get, under $600. Looks like a good range for me, with targets up here. But I think you can see a bigger breakout to the upside potentially. But semis have cooled off a little bit. They have. So I will say that it's an opportunity potential. If you still believe here, these are going to be hot. These are on the pullbacks, or they've been, I would say, more consolidating. They've been some good opportunities. AMAT. Let's see. Same thing, but this has been kind of putting in higher lows, uptrending. This has been looking nice. This is setting up here, right here. I think this is a nice one for a pretty good breakout to the upside. I would even argue that you can probably grab even just shares here and not have to worry too much. Look at this breakout. Up over 145 here on AMAT. You're probably going to go 150 at least, and then we'll see what happens from there. But look at this. You can probably get a nice move. Oof. 10, 20% isn't out of the question, I would say, on that one at a minimum, I would think. But it's setting up in a little bull flag kind of pattern where you kind of have a crazy extension, consolidation, higher lows continuing being put in, and then boom, breakout. I'm going to add it on the list. Put in a little large cap note. I like that chart a lot. Personally, I like this chart better because it's setting up for a breakout trade. I'm not a huge breakout fan, but on large caps, I think it's personally, I would either go in the money options or shares, and I would probably just go shares here, ride it up for a little bit of a gain, and that's it. If you go to options on this guy, maybe you go to like the end of the year, go out to like December of this year and grab some like 140s, and they're going to cost you $10, but this thing goes to 160. And boom, you double your money. in a couple, and that can happen in a couple weeks. So I would probably go with something like that. I'd probably go with the 140s on that guy, and you pay $10, and you look for this thing to target 160, 175, maybe even more, and here you're looking nice on that. Okay. Let's see. Wish. Let's take Wish has been interesting. Let's see. This one I want to see it holding over 6. I have some options for the end of the year that I have in the money options, so that's the type of play and setup I'm looking at. I want to see it holding over 6 and then a move. I think we can get up to the 760 area. That's first resistance. 50 SMA up there as well. I think we can see close to $9. I think it wouldn't be surprising if we get a bounce up towards that 9 to 10 on Wish, maybe more, but I would be targeting that level, and so that's my plan at the end of the year. But if it starts holding below 6, I'm probably just going to get out because I see better opportunity in some small caps right now. But that's just at least my plan. I want to see it holding over 6 for a move to fill up some of these gaps up toward that almost $9 area is what I'd be looking at. Let's see. UVXY. Here's the thing. We get back to all-time highs again. Yeah, I'd grab some. So if we come back up on SPY, and SPY comes back up this week and gets back up to that 450, 460, I mean, hey, what I would want to see here for me to grab UVXY again would be a blow off into all-time highs, hitting all-time highs, and then I'd grab some. But even that, if we don't see a sharper pullback, kind of like we saw here, let's look at UVXY. This time last week, if we don't see a pullback like this, you're not going to get the spike because this thing, the market was down, right? The market was down like pretty massive, or not massive, but like it was down for like 7 or 8 out of 10 days. So in the sense of that being big news, I want to say massive. It was big news at the time, and UVXY was in a range from like 23 down to 21, chopping up, even though the market was headed down because we didn't see like a full floor drop out. Then the floor drops out Monday. UVXY spikes to 30 from being in the mid to low 20s. There's your opportunity, and now it's back at 20 again. So this is what I want to see. All-time highs, UVXY come down 19, 18, even 17. Boom, grab some calls or grab some shares, whatever you want to do for your hedge, and then play it as a hedge. We get a quick, we get a hard pullback in the market. Boom, that spikes up. Take your profits, rinse and repeat. That's how I'd be playing it. And that said, it's coming up on an hour here. I'm going to wrap things up here, guys, in just a second. So real quick, what are futures doing? As we've been talking, futures have been rocking. Look at this. We're looking nice. So all-time highs could be on tap this coming week. I mean, it would be a stretch to hit there, but I mean, hey, the pace the market's been at lately, who knows? Small caps come back pretty strong, up a little over 0.25%. Tech up 0.25%. Dow, S&P between 1.25% almost. So the market's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty strong right now as we speak, futures-wise, and we'll see what happens. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to wrap things up here. Stay tuned for some future videos. Of course, I'll be updating, like always, this coming week, a crypto video on Tuesday. That is that. Appreciate you guys like always, and I will see you in the next one. Hit that thumbs up button.